Hey everybody, Steve Jordan's here. I have the honor and privilege to be your prof for the summer A01 course, Introductory to Psychology, Introduction to Biological and Cognitive Psychology, something like that. They made it complicated on me. This is my second attempt at making this video. First one, somehow there's no sound. I have no idea why that happened, so I'm doing a redo. So this is take 2. The idea of this video, well, first of all, is just to welcome you guys to the course. Like, wow, what a spring. My goodness, never has the entire planet gone through anything like this, and never was it more obvious how relevant psychology is. If you guys haven't seen me on the news, you haven't been paying attention, and that's simply because I'm constantly being asked by reporters to bring a psychological perspective on some aspect of this crisis. So yeah, it's quite the thing, and it's driven us all online. Now, this summer offering has been online for many years, so to some extent this isn't all that different from what we've been doing, but I know you guys' lives are very different this summer, and so we want to be very sensitive to the situation you guys are in, and hopefully give you a nice distraction during all of this, and a chance to learn a lot about yourself. Cool. Let's get into it. Mostly, I want to just walk you through the mechanics of the course for now. Make sure you have a good understanding of how things work. By the way, there'll be a quiz on what I tell you today. Literally a syllabus quiz, and that's mostly what I'll go through. So please pay attention, and yeah, get your first 2 out of 2 easy in the course. All right, cool. Let us go to Quirkus. There we are. All right. Here's Quirkus. This is my Quirkus. Yours will look a little different. I've got a lot of tiles from previous courses and the 2 that I'm doing this summer. This is the one relevant to us, the 2020 Summer A01. So you should have that as well on your Quirkus homepage, and just jump right into that. When you do, you will see all of these little sections of material. A lot of these are us trying to be as clear as possible about some of the components in the course that I'm going to talk to you about in just a moment. Just kind of look up here. We have the AIM module, Academic Integrity Matters. That's what AIM is. So the Academic Integrity module, Digital Lab Code, is going to play a bit of a role in this course, not as much as it usually does. The SONA system, which is a way for you getting in experimental credit. Peer Scholar, I'll tell you about the activity in Peer Scholar. And these are all your lectures. In fact, these ones you can start consuming anytime you wish. And they literally just go in order. There's about 3 lectures per chapter in the textbook, and you'll get a sense of that as we go through. Okay, so all this stuff is available to you. Top Hat, you'll learn more about that in just a moment. And MTuner, you'll learn more about that in just a moment. And so these second quizzes, if you have more specific questions about any of these components that I'm going to talk to you about, just know that we have whole sections here to walk you through some of those specifics. Okay, so I, however, am going to start at the top here, and I'm going to spend most of my time focusing on these factors that you'll see here in this first one. Okay, the course administration things, because this is what we really want you to get out of today. So let me just launch into the syllabus, and we'll go through some of the syllabus together. There's me, there's Ainsley. That's not really me, by the way. That's the past version of me. I'd like to think I haven't changed at all, but this is me. This is the real version of me. I have aged. But Ainsley and I are sort of the 2 people relevant to this course, and we kind of have a divide and conquer kind of approach in the following sense. I really focus on the content, right? The psychology, the stuff we're talking about in lectures, the stuff you're reading about in your textbook. Ainsley, it's a large course, 1,700 in the fall, over 300 in the summer, and of course there's A01 and A02, and Ainsley helps us kind of keep all the grades and the administrative aspects of these courses running smoothly. So she generates a lot of the rules about our activities and assignments, but she also gives all that clarity that you guys want. So if you have questions about those sorts of things, activities in the course, or how marks work, or what mark you need to go into the specialist program, or anything administrative, then Ainsley is your person to reach out to. If it's more about something you've learned in the course that you have questions about, then it's me. The good news is you really don't have to worry about this distinction too much. You just need to know this, that we will highlight over and over again. We have one course email, and the only way you should contact us is through this email. So psya01@utsc.utoronto.ca. That email goes to Ainsley. If it's an administrative question, she answers it directly. If it's about the content, she forwards it to me. And I know when she forwards it to me that if I don't answer soon, she's going to be like asking me about it. So when it comes through this channel, I try my best to respond before Ainsley can elbow me in the ribs, virtually speaking, so to speak. If you email me directly, your emails could get lost in the sea of other emails I get. And so that's why if you want a quick answer, use this, okay? And in general, just use this. This allows us to keep track of things and where they're at, okay? So any question with the course, use that. We'll figure it out from there. We will communicate to you a lot via announcements on Quarkus. And so some of these will come through as email notifications as well. And you may be able to, so Quarkus is actually it's built on something called Canvas, right? Is the actual learning management system that we're labeling Quarkus. I think there's a Canvas app. And I think if you got the Canvas app, you can set it to get notifications when we post announcements. That's a really good idea. If you can do that, because we communicate a lot with announcements. In fact, let's just jump there and jump back. We'll do a little bit of bouncing around. Already, this is Monday, the day of, and we've already posted 3 announcements. If we do that every day for 12 weeks times 7, 89, you'll have over 100 announcements. We won't do it every day for 12 weeks, but this is our primary way of interacting, and we assume that you are seeing these announcements. And it's not, if we announce something important here and you miss it, it's not enough to say, well, I wasn't paying attention to the announcements. You have to pay attention to the announcements. It's our only way to know that we're reaching all of you guys, all right? So it's your responsibility to keep track of those announcements. And please do that just by following along, or again, better yet, having notifications sent to you. Make sure that the email you have associated with your account is the official U of T one. There's going to be a lot of things here. Like, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but you need to, okay? Because it's going to tell you a lot of details that I want you to check. And again, we will have a quiz on this, as you'll see in a moment. So, take the time and go through this. I'm going to hit the highlights, but yeah, you go through it in detail. I should have mentioned here, by the way, office hours. You will see this now. We have Blackboard Collaborate on the right here. And what this does is it just opens up a sort of Zoom-like situation, except we have some other tools. We have a whiteboard, and I can ask you to vote on things and things like that. And so it's a place for us to connect. And so what I've got is 2 sets of office hours. Because I know you guys are dispersed sort of all over the planet right now. So I'm hoping whatever time zone you're in, one of these 2 will work. But I'm going to be there for both. So both of those times, every Tuesday, I will go into Collaborate, launch that office hour, and literally from your perspective, to give you a sense, you literally just go to the Blackboard Collaborate. These are the morning office hours. These are the afternoon. So if you pick one and you say, okay, this is actually tomorrow morning, but it probably won't let me in now. Yeah, it won't let me in at this point. But all I would do tomorrow morning is click on that. And then right where I X there, it would say something like link to or go in or something like that. And I just go in, and it works. So give that a try. If you get a chance, if you've seen this video and you can do this like tomorrow, Tuesday morning, 10 or 3, pop in, give it a check, see what you think. Okay, that will be our way of being connected and literally talking through the course materials. The way I do office hours, don't feel you have to come with a question. Think of it much more informally. It's a space where those of us who wish to meet. If somebody has a course-related question, they always get priority, so they get to ask those questions. But if there are no further course-related questions, we just talk about stuff, usually related to the course, certainly related to psychology, but it can be rambling all over the place. And I tend to really enjoy these sessions, so you should pop in and give it a try. You can sit there quietly if you like. lurk, don't ask anything, or feel free to chime in as much or as little as you like. Okay, cool. All right. Scooting down here, just general course information. I think most of you guys know this, but we actually do our entire introductory psychology experience, I guess you could say, across two courses, Sci A01 and Sci A02. This course, Sci A01, we call it the biological and cognitive bases of behavior or whatnot. We're really going to talk a little bit about the history of psychology. I'm going to introduce you to the scientific process. We're going to talk a little bit about the actual brain, the brain structures themselves, and then we'll get up to things like sensory processes, perceptual processes, memory, language, thought. And so we're going to talk about some of those things, but we won't get into things like clinical psychology or social psychology or perception or intelligence or development. A lot of those things are covered in the second class. Okay, so if you're a psychology major, you need to take both. If you're doing this for breadth, you can take one or the other. And it might be that one or the other seems more interesting to you. They both use the same textbook. I use the first half. Kyle is the teacher for AO2. He uses the second half. So yeah, they're kind of companion courses. In the summer, you can take them both together. Perfectly fine to do so. Yeah, I like to highlight this a little bit. This course is described as a survey course, and this does make it challenging. There's nothing really hard in this course, except how much there is. So what I mean by that is it's not like calculus where you got to figure something out and then you build on what you figured out last week, etc., etc. Every week, it's almost like we'll go to different stuff. Like a new chapter will be a new topic and new people and new theories and new ideas, and none of it will be very complex, but there will be a lot of it. It'll keep coming. It'll keep coming. It'll keep coming. And so that's what the survey course is. I describe it sometimes. It's like going into a restaurant and they hand you a menu, but then they say, okay, the first thing you have to do is have a little taste of everything on the menu. And that'll allow you to know what you like and what you don't like. That's what our survey course is. We're giving you a taste of every way people do psychology. And there's a lot of ways. And then you can use that to guide what psychology you would like to learn more about going forward. Okay. It makes it challenging just because there's a lot to learn, and you'll discover that pretty quickly. Lectures. Let me just explain how this works to you. I think most of you know, but just to be extra sure, the way things work with our intro psych courses is I teach in the fall, AO1, and Kyle teaches AO2 in the winter term. While we're teaching, we're videotaped, and those videotapes are put online, and we use those during the fall. So during the fall, students can either come in person or watch online. But in the summer, we reuse those videos. So the videos you will see are videos that we took in the fall of last year. And they are all available right now. We've put them all up for the entire summer term. And so you can access those anytime. So let me just show you what we mean. If we go back to the modules, you see all those lectures. I picked lecture 1 last time, but let me pick lecture 4 and let me just go into it a ways because I know you guys all love that song.
By the way, promoted cocaine.
That was Freud I was talking about, by the way.
Shut up. And then continue right. If I did that, you guys would all go, oh, like, what? You can't do that.
Okay, so notice, first of all, that's me. Secondly, I'm in a class and there's human beings in the same room with me. This is all pre-COVID, okay? And by the way, I don't usually wear a jacket. That's pretty, wow, dressed up for that lecture. But yeah, this is pre-COVID. So these lectures were all videotaped in the fall. I will not mention COVID at any point in time because it did not exist in my world at that point in time. And they are videotaped in that way. So you're basically brought into the classroom and you get to experience the lecture. I do not lecture on everything in the textbook. And in fact, I will sometimes lecture on things not in the textbook. I will sometimes take things a bit of a different direction. I do that to try to bring the textbook to life. There are times when I think what you're reading about, in order to really appreciate it, here's an example that shows you why that's really important. And that example might not be in the textbook, but it might be something that I feel will help you understand the textbook better. Point of all this for you guys is you will be tested on both the textbook content and the lecture content. Okay, so you have to know both, and questions for your quizzes will come from both. They will mostly come from the textbook, and in fact, a lot of it will be in both the textbook and the lectures, but there may be things in lectures that are not in the text, and that's fair game as well. Okay, so we're expecting you to watch the lectures, and we will be testing you on them. I try my best to make the lectures engaging and interesting, and try to make you get infected by the bug that infected me, which is the coolness of psychology. But we'll see how that goes. This is the textbook we're using. Again, first 8 chapters are for this course, A01. Next 8 chapters are A02. You can just follow this link to get an online version of the textbook if you want. One potential source of confusion, and I want to be very clear on this, is that, look at this word not. In the fall, we used Revel. You don't even have to know what Revel is, other than it's this online resource, quizzing resource, and we used it in the fall, and we ultimately did not like it. And so we're not using it in the summer. What that means is I may talk about it in the fall, in the lectures. But if I do, ignore that. Keep in mind, the lectures are in the fall. When it comes to anything administrative in the course, this syllabus wins. Okay, this is the real information. Anything I said months ago doesn't count. And so you do not need Revel. You just need access to the textbook. We're only going to test you on the questions from the textbook, or from on the information in the textbook, I should say. But you can get access to this Revel platform. It has some things you might like. And so if you like it, and like there's flashcards, and there's, reads your book to you and stuff like that. If there's things you like, feel free to use Revel to help you prepare. But you don't have to. We're not assuming you're doing that. We won't test you on anything that comes from Revel. Okay? Cool. Now, evaluation. This is where I get to kind of lay out to you how the course really works, in a sense. So let's do that. Very early on, and I'm going to show you the deadlines sheet in a moment because Ainsley's prepared this, but these are 2 things you're going to do early in the course. Your Academic Integrity Matters module and your MTuner quiz on what I'm talking about right now. They're worth 2% each. And if you just pay attention and do the quizzes, you should be able to get 2 out of 2 on each. Start the course with a 4 out of 4. That's pretty cool. Why are we doing this? Just to be clear, in the Pure Scholar activity that's coming up, you're going to have to write. And I expect you to understand what plagiarism is and what plagiarism isn't, and we don't want you to have an excuse that you didn't know that's what it was. So that's why we're putting you through the module, and you're doing the quiz. And if you get 2 out of 2 on that quiz, from our perspective, you understand what plagiarism is, and therefore you should not do it. If you do it, then you're in trouble. Okay. Similarly, we want you to understand the syllabus. We want to make sure you have a good understanding of the course, and you don't 8 weeks down the road say, "Oh, I didn't know this is what was going to happen." We want to say, "Well, you read the syllabus, right?" And if we're going to look and say you got a 2 out of 2 on the quiz on the syllabus, don't tell us you didn't know what was going on, right? So this just ensures us that we're getting off to the right foot. That you are reading things and that you are preparing. So please take those 2 seriously, and get your 4 out of 4 and get off to a good start. Now, let me highlight these next 4 because they really kind of give you a sense of the structure. The course itself is 12 weeks. It's going to occur over 12 weeks starting today, Monday. And really the way things work is we cover 2 chapters every 3 weeks. 2 chapters every 3 weeks. So module, the first 3 weeks of the course, we're going to cover chapters 1 and 2. And then at the end of those 3 weeks, we're going to have a quiz on those chapters. Then we will start covering 3 and 4. So for the second 3 weeks of the course. So think of this as the quarters of the course. If you're an NBA fan, these are the quarters: first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Each quarter lasts 3 weeks. And at the end of each quarter, there is an MTuner quiz. To really kind of encourage you to make sure you've watched all your lectures and kept up with your readings in time for that quiz. Yeah, so that's the basic structure. You can almost think of it as a bunch of 3-week chunks that we're going through over and over again, studying 2 chapters, and then ultimately being quizzed on it. Now, along the way, this is across the full 12 weeks, but along the way, somewhere around usually week 6, 7, something like that, we have a peer scholar activity. This is an activity where the version we've been doing lately is we ask you to find a scientific finding. We sometimes narrow those down for you, to read the paper, and then do 2 things in a short write-up. Summarize what you read, and then say what you would do next if you were the scientist. What do you think is the cool next step to take that research? And so it's sort of like almost a grant proposal. You know, you trying to convince somebody, here's a clever idea I'd like to do research on. Then once you do that, that's step 1. In step 2, you see what 6 of your peers submitted. So you're going to see 6 other summaries with proposals about what to do next. And we're going to ask you to assess each of those 6 and ultimately to give each of those 6 some constructive feedback about how to improve. While you're doing that with 6 peers will be doing it to your work. So in the last step, you get feedback from 6 peers. We push you to analyze that feedback, to encourage you to really think about it deeply, and then ultimately you can use the good parts of that feedback to make your work better for a final submission. And you are graded on that final submission, but you're also graded on the feedback you gave along the way. So this is just going to be our sort of written activity, and it'll occur partway through the course. Okay. Top hat participation. As you are going through the course, all of this will make sense once we get through a week or 2, but as you are going through the course, especially starting around chapters 3 and 4, I don't know if I used it too much in weeks 1 and 2, but by 3 and 4 I start to use top hat a lot. You will see in the class, I will ask students a question that I want them to answer. And now these aren't really quiz, it's not really right or wrong questions often. It's often me just asking them their opinion on something or what they believe to be true about something, etc. But I stop and they all get to vote. They all get to tell me what they think. And then I show the results to the class and we talk about them. And I use this all as a way of kind of connecting all of us together. Now, it's trickier in the summer, but you are also expected to answer those questions. So we're going to ask you to register with Top Hat and to get the app if you haven't registered already. So you have this app, and then as you watch the lectures, when I ask a question, you can use your app and you can answer that question as well. And we want, that's worth 7%, is answering these questions as you go. And mostly it's just participation. Very seldom is there a right or wrong answer. But what we want to do is you show us you're kind of paying attention and you're playing along with the lectures. And we also think these questions we ask will push you to think a certain way, which will enhance your learning, which is why we really have it in the course. So that's part of what you have to do this week, is get all set up in Top Hat. Although again, I don't use it much when I lecture on chapter 1. So this isn't a burning thing, but we'll get there. You'll need it soon enough. Another thing we always have as part of our introductory psychology course is what's called experimental participation. The idea here is that there's researchers on campus collecting data all the time, and they would like your data. But also, it's a great chance for you to see how psychology experimentation happens by actually being part of it. So we kind of see it as good on both sides, that they get their data, you get a really rich first-hand experience of psychological research. And so we like you to do these. And the way it works is, for every half an hour you spend participating, you get 0.5%, up to 3% total. So if you put 3 hours into participating, you get 3 out of 3 on this part. That's the most you can get. You can only get 3 out of 3, even if you participate more. Normally, this is perfectly fine. This summer, it's going to be weird because everything's got to be online, right? We can't meet physically. And so we've talked to the faculty, and there's a whole bunch of them planning online experiments. And so you will find out about these, and you will see the opportunities to participate in online experiments and get your 3% that way. Not as good as what we usually like, when maybe you'd walk in somewhere and they'd hook you up to some EEG system or something like that. But this is what we got, right? thanks to COVID. So that's what it is. Finally, the monster at the end of the book. At the very end of the course, there is a cumulative final exam that you must pass in order to pass the course. So what we mean is you have to get 45 out of 100 on this exam, okay, at least. If you get less than 45 on this exam, you get 45 on the entire course. Okay, we want you to show us you know the material when you leave the door. Why? Well, you know, that's our way of really kind of sensing that you haven't just learned the course in chunks, but you took the time to get the big picture of what's going on. All of these M-tuners, as I'll describe in a moment, are meant to prepare you for that final exam. This final exam, thanks to COVID, will be online. We're going to be taking various steps to try to ensure academic integrity. We'll talk to you about that when we get there. I'm going to talk to you about one in just a second, actually. But the idea of these M-tuners is, with these things, you get a first chance. But if you get it wrong the first chance, we give you a hint, and we give you a second chance for half marks. The idea is we want you to actually learn what the things you got wrong, we want you to fix while you're doing these M-tuners and learn the right answer. And so if you do these M-tuners in the right way, and you take the time to use them as a learning tool, then that final exam will tend to be relatively easy. If you find a way of getting through the M-tuners quick and easy and getting a good mark, you're probably going to get hit by the final exam. Okay. Let me highlight one thing, and I want to be very clear about this for both the M-tuners and the cumulative final. Questions will be timed. Okay. When we show you, here's a question with a multiple choice answer, and this is especially true of the cumulative final, but it's the other in the other M-tuners too. You'll have about a minute per question to answer that question. Why do we do that? It's to try to prevent, just mass Googling of every answer for every question. So it's trying to make it a bit of a challenge where if you know the material going in, it's easy to find the right answer in a minute. But if you're not sure and you don't know, well, then we're making your life a little trickier for you. We have to do something like that. So it's fair for everybody. Everybody's got that same challenge. It's only tough on the people who sort of know the answers, and the ones that really know it don't find it a challenge. The ones that don't know it, doesn't matter if it's a minute or not. It's those people that are kind of in the middle. So try not to be in the middle. Try to know this stuff as well as you can, but just know that's the way the exams will work. We're going to do that for everybody in a fair way. There's the notion of accessibility students who may have gotten some sort of I've just lost what they call it. But at any rate, they may have a little bit of extra time, which we can add into the M-tuners and stuff. Their accommodation may involve time. But them aside, the rest of you guys, it's that one amount of time. And that's just how I'm going to do the exams in this course, because I feel it's the fairest way to do them. So I just want to be clear about that ahead of time. Okay. Now, what else is in here? Ainsley rightfully believes that we need to be very clear about all of our information. And so things I've talked to you about in a little bit of sense, we've just got a lot more detail here about them. A lot of these things we also introduce you to in those other subsections that I've told you about. So things like the M-tuners and how do they work and how do I register for them, etc. We'll have separate sections for each of these. So begin by reading through this in detail, making sure you're cool with it, you have an understanding of what's going on. But notice, for example, for Peer Scholar, that we're staying relatively general here. But if you feel like, I feel anxious, I really want to know a lot more detail about what's going on, then you can go back to this thing and find the section on Peer Scholar, and you're getting a whole lot more information here about how we do Peer Scholar and such. So, if you're craving that additional information, you can feel free to hit one of these sections. What we're going to do is when we get to one of these things, we'll talk about it in the announcements that this is open, and that should push you. Like, let's say the AIM thing comes up, we'll say, hey, this is going to be available. I guess September 20th. No, not September 20th. That date will get reset. But we'll tell you when it's available, and you can go and check out what is this about. So if we hopped in here for a second, this gives you a little bit more description about what it's all about, how it works. And so that's all available there. Okay, so know that the details are there as well. I think for the short term, I just want to hit these last bits here. First bit, the assignment deadlines. So all of these various characteristics, by the way, I should have been better about saying this too. I talked about those 3 weeks things, and I said at the end of the 3 weeks, we're going to have an M tuner on the 2 chapters we just covered. But we also expect you to have done all of your top hat responses by then. So to have gone through chapters 1 and 2 and done all the responding. If you don't do that by the end of that 3rd week, you can't go back and do it later. Okay? We literally want you for each 3 week, at the end of the 3 week, to have the M tuner and to have your top hat questions done. This will all be reflected in these dates. Print this out, stick it on your fridge, put notifications in your phone. There's nothing worse than losing marks because you missed something. That's so annoying. It doesn't show us who you really are. So don't miss anything. Like do everything and do it in time. By the way, let me throw a quick little other mention here. A lot of the things that we use require technology. Don't wait till the last minute to do something before it's about to close. Technology has a nasty way of biting you in the butt when you do that. Give yourself enough time so that you think, I could submit and still have an hour left, or still have 2 hours left. What that means is if you suddenly have to scramble and borrow someone else's computer or whatever device, our technology works fine on our side. Sometimes you run into something on your side. Usually a different browser or a different device fixes it. That's usually all you have to do is switch to a different browser or device or both. But give yourself the time to scramble, to sort out what's going on. Don't leave things to the last minute. Okay, so look at all those deadlines. Get a real clear sense of those deadlines. And print those out somewhere or something like that. The actual lecture slides and the rough sort of timeline of how we're going through it, you see laid out here. So as I present these in class, you can either download the PDF version of the slides, or you can download the actual PowerPoint version if you want, and you can have that with you while I'm going through it to take notes on or whatnot. So they're all available already, and you have a good sense of what chapter each goes along with. So that can give you a really good sense there. And I think that's mostly what we need to go over today. We've got just a FAQ. Right, so this has been updated. So just very common questions that we have here, and we will add to this if other issues come up. So you can always check the FAQ if issues come up. You see, it's a really efficient way to see things. Okay. Whew. So I think that's the grand scheme of things. It is a bit of a complex course because we have a lot of these different things going on, but you'll get the hang of it real quick. Once you've gone through the first 3 week cycle, you'll have a good feel for it. And from there on, the only real new thing is the Pure Scholar activity that sneaks in later. We will give you lots of instructions. We will be very clear on what we're looking for. Yeah. And that's it. It will keep you busy. Start your reading now. There's a lot to learn. This is not an easy course, and it's not easy because of how much stuff there is to learn. So I wish you all the best. The good news is it's cool stuff. It's interesting stuff. Please keep in mind office hours. It's a great way to stay motivated. Just come hang out for a while, chat. It'll make you want to go learn a little bit more afterwards, I think. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to leave it there, other than to just say, once again, these are strange times in which we're living. I'm a fan of old music, and there's a band called The Doors that have a song that says, "Strange days have found us." They certainly have. Doing something like a course is a good thing to be doing right now. It's distracting, takes your mind somewhere else, which is good for a while, and you're actually learning and getting something done, and so that's really cool. we also have a community around this course, right? Every course has a community of students and faculty. We will meet regularly in office hours, but please feel like you can draw on us as well, as we all kind of literally go through this together. Let me say one thing I just saw on the side. See all these crossed out eyes on mine? You won't see any of these. That's what that basically says. Students don't see that. So if mine looks a little different than yours, that's why. Okay. Good. Gonna stop it there. Peace. Good luck. Hang in there. Let's have a good summer together. Alrighty. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.